Hello, everybody. My name is Joel Filderman, and welcome to the Dog Trainers Connection. I am not a dog trainer, but these other people you see here are. We get together, we discuss a topic, come up with some thoughts, some ideas, sometimes some answers, but we always have an interesting discussion. For today's topic, what I'd like to talk about is words. But in particular, what I want to talk about is terminology. I want to talk about how trainers say things and how trainers advertise things. The reason this topic came up to me is I was reading something recently where they said, what about somebody who advertises a behaviorist? What does that mean? And so, how important is it that your clients know what you're saying, and how important is it that people in general know what you're saying? Joyce, let me start with you today.
Woohoo! Yay! um, I hear that all the time because I refer to myself as a behaviorist, and I get some upset from the medical side of things, the vet techs and things like that. Well, you're not a behaviorist. You're not a veterinarian behaviorist. Oh, I'm absolutely am not a
Hmm,
veterinarian behaviorist.
sure.
I just handle the behavior side of things. But I'm also, I mean, not to blow my own horn, but I'm highly educated, qualified, and experienced. I didn't just pick up a leash the other day and go, hey, I know how to train dogs. So I've put a lot of time and effort and energy and money into what it is I know. Um, and I think I'm probably in in the upper echelon of knowledge in this area. And it's taken me a long time to get comfortable with saying that, but it's been, like I said, a lot of hard work and a lot of just experience. So I think one is with the training business being unregulated, words can be
Hmm.
thrown around. Those terminologies can be thrown around.
Sure.
Um, and if somebody's calling them a behaviorist and they've never even, they can't have a discussion with a veterinarian using correct terminology or with another person that's highly educated and experienced using correct scientific terminology and be comprehended in that respect, then no, they definitely shouldn't be giving themselves that title. It's one of those unfortunate things about our industry is that there isn't really any true regulation and hierarchy in it. We kind of get certified, and then that certification gives us a title. And what does that title mean?
And
Uh,
there's no set definitions either, I would
not
assume.
really. Not
Hmm.
not really. I mean, it's like you got a certified trainer, you got a certified behavior consultant. Um, and then you get up into the higher levels where people have PhDs, masters and PhDs, and they can, they get different titles based on that. But um, so I think again, people need to do their research. I always tell
Hmm.
people to, talk to the person you're thinking about hiring and make sure that you're comfortable with what you're hearing and that they're not just, uh, they're not stating miracles,
Mm.
that they're not saying they can fix things, and that they're not trying to just do it themselves. They're involving you in
Hmm.
that process as well. Um, among ourselves, those of us who uh, you know, do have all the scientific jargon. We could sit here and, use all the respondent conditioning and operant conditioning verbiage we want. If you start to talk to a client with that stuff, they're going to look at you with crossed eyes and go, what the heck are you talking about? So we have to
Hmm.
change it up to be more layman's terms so that people can understand exactly what we're talking about. Um, so it's an interesting topic, and there's definitely a lot of emotion out there wrapped around some
Sure.
of especially the titles that people give themselves
Hmm.
or we call ourselves. But it's I think it's if it's valid, if it's something that you uh, if a trainer has worked their way up through the ranks, you deserve to call yourself something other than a dog trainer. Because I don't consider myself a dog trainer.
Mm.
I don't just teach sit down come. I mean, I'm
Hmm.
solving very serious behavioral problems. Not
Right.
even really solving them. I'm just helping the families live together. I mean, making uh, we're coming up with a program that helps the dog, behave more appropriately, but make better decisions, and also the families learning how to deal with that personality type or temperament type they have, and to make better decisions around what's going on. And it's that's has nothing to do with sits and downs. I very rarely anymore teach sits and downs
Hmm.
actually. So,
Yeah.
um, it's I think everybody's got to kind of have their own comfort level in that, but it's
Yeah.
definitely terminology is definitely a topic to discuss about that.
Sure. Steve, do you have to dumb yourself down for your clients?
I'm dumb enough. I don't really need to. I knew you were going to say that.
That was so hard.
We've been hanging out with each other way too long.
Do it, Jeff. I beat you to it, pal.
Open door.
You know, this is it's like this has been going on a long time. You know, this words thing, and so it's kind of funny, Joyce, because I actually consider myself a dog trainer because my idea was to try to elevate what that meant. So rather than, despite the fact that I may see behavior cases, I just felt like, you know what? It's because of my experience and my background that I can do those things, but I always felt like the term dog trainers, and a little flat. And rather than like have a whole lot of leverage in just the dog training field, because there's a lot, there's a lot. So there are those that like franchise dog training business. I mean, I spoke to somebody this morning who one of their relatives called a franchise place, and the person came out and said they were a behaviorist. And I know that in this particular franchise, you learn by reading the material they give you, and they kind of frown upon you doing any further research than what they give.
The employees you're referring to.
Well, the franchise. So if you're
the franchisees, yeah.
You're gonna. This is to be one of our guys. This is what we're gonna give you all you need to know, and you can call yourself this or that. And so, I always felt like, well, why do I don't want to fight about this at all. I mean, people who, board certified veterinary behaviorists, I always applaud them for going to school all those years and taking a specialty. I'm a fan of all the specialists. So, you take a specialty in behavior, that's great. I don't think that makes you a great dog trainer, maybe not even a great behaviorist, but at least I know you're wise. You have the wisdom to have passed these exams and all that, the dedication, and you got to give them credit for all that.
Sure.
But I always felt funny about the dog trainer thing because it's lopsided. There are dog trainers who have years in, or maybe if it's not years, it's just really good study, like a lot of work time in, right? So they have knowledge, they have skill sets, all that. And then there are the other guys. They also say dog trainer on their card, and they don't have much time. They may not have same skill set. They love dogs, they became a dog trainer. Or they were a dog walker for a while, then they became a dog trainer. Or they were a groomer. And they said, well, I got to control these dogs. I might as well also put on my card I'm a dog trainer because, I can't groom them if I can't kind of teach them to sit still. So there's so much of this like stuff. And then there's the credential side. I mean, I not to knock them around because I worked for these guys for years, but when I worked at Canine, they had dog trainer courses. You paid a fortune for them, and at the end, you got a certificate that said you were a master dog trainer. That's what it said on the certificate, master dog trainer. Who issued the certificate? Well, the school that I paid the money to, that I took the education at, it says it's their name on the top, or they have another name, the International blah, 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 which isn't really real, and then they got your name on it in calligraphy. It's really pretty. But, it's like, well, who are you paying? And I don't see it, honestly, I don't see a whole big difference now with like any organization that does their own testing and offers then some certificate, that's a little self-serving, I think, on some level. So, there's that. So basically, I stick with when people say, oh, you're not just a dog trainer. I'm like, oh, not just a dog trainer, a dog trainer, yes. Not just a dog trainer, because I've done the same thing in veterinary technology. I really have tried, because I come from the time when the guy that used to help the vet wore like a butcher smock and it always had blood on it. It was like disgusting. And so veterinary technology brought like education and rules and terminology and all these things, right? Skills. You had to be a certain way, and they elevated that entire profession. Probably not high enough yet because it's still kind of under the thumb of AVMA, and they're not going to let vet techs come up too high because then they have to pay them a little bit more. May I say this? Those cheap wads. They got these kids working day and night. They got suicidal tendencies already, and they're not paying them any money for all the work they do. The veterinarians have like something to talk about, themselves. Me, I like to see us paraprofessionals, I like to think of us as like raised up so that it is meaningful. If you are a dog trainer, it's a meaningful title. If you're a vet tech, it's meaningful. It's not
Hmm.
just, oh, well, you're just a vet tech. You're not a veterinarian. Oh, you're just a trainer. You're not a behaviorist. It's like, wait a minute, time out. Let's get to work and we'll see. Well, I'll let you know what I am at the end of the day after we put to implement some of these things that I'd like you to do, and we'll see where I'm at. In the meantime, people call me up or I call back. I'm like, hi, this is Steve, the dog trainer. That's how I say it. And I got a lot of people saying, you don't have to say that. And I'm like, what do you mean? I have to say something when I call back. And
Hmm.
you could just say it's Steve Diller. We know who you are.
Hmm.
And I'm like, well, that's another thing is people say, hey, listen, you're a dog trainer, but I heard. I'm like,
Hmm.
heard what? That I'm dumb? Heard.
We're back to that. Okay.
But you know what? Because people have expectations and
Yeah.
they've heard things from other of your clients and all
Sure.
this stuff, and right away then we're like, you have to be somebody else. I don't know. It's complicated. I would almost rather talk about the other terminology. The humping, mounting terminology. Or things like this. It's like it's good to know which end. Listen, if I got on a boat and somebody said, "There's the bow," there's the what's the other end?
Hmm.
There's two.
Stern.
The
Right?
stern.
Yeah, whatever. See what I mean? I don't know. And so do I blame my clients for really not knowing, like, the stifle from the hock? I guess maybe I can't blame them for that because I don't know the bow from the other one. So,
Hmm.
but as a professional, I don't like my dog trainer friends calling their clients customers.
Hmm.
That gets me a little bit. That customer thing that eats away a little bit at my soul because we give service. We don't sell products, right? So we don't have customers. We have clients. And you could feel your own, everybody's got some feelings about this. I have really, like, I'm emotional about the client customer thing. I don't sell anything. I never did. If
Hmm.
I had to give a collar to a client, I gave it to him like this. Here.
Yeah.
How much? No cost. So what do you mean? I'll incorporate it, just be part of your consult fee or whatever. I'm not charging you for it. I never charge sales tax. So all that I got exempt because I was a service business. I didn't sell anything.
Hmm.
I guess there are rules that came around. I guess if you board animals, there's sales tax involved.
Hmm.
I guess there are certain
Sure.
like IRS rules. They never really applied to me somehow. I didn't. Back in the day.
This is being taped.
Yes, I thought the same thing, Joe. And we can't
Knock, knock,
edit
knock,
that
Mr.
out.
Destroy the
Diller.
tape.
Oh man! So
And
there it is. I mean, look, I know that my old PhD animal behaviorist friends, they would be a little hostile about
Hmm.
somebody who knew, somebody with Joyce's background and skill set and knowledge. They wouldn't care how smart she is, how good she is at it, how
Hmm.
long she's been in it. If she didn't get those letters, they
Right.
would be and so they consider it when they speak of one another. It's like my colleague, nah, 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 nah.
Yeah.
When they talk about the dog trainer, oh, that dog trainer,
Mm.
Joe Smith,
Wow.
whatever, right? So they have that thing, and that's, I mean, who needs that aggravation? I mean, we don't need it. Everybody's in it to try to help the dogs
Yeah.
out, and whoever can do that, then they win. It's
Hmm.
the client wins, the dog wins, everybody wins. So I don't know when it comes to this if it's about what we call ourselves. I just would like us all to behave in a certain way when it comes to how we speak and what we call what we do. It's service, not sales,
Yeah.
right? I mean, we're not selling anything, I think. Am I right or wrong, guys? I mean, are we selling?
I do.
You sell?
I sell a concept of dog care to dog owners.
But then what do you call the dog? What do you call the person who hires you?
Client.
Client. So you're selling service still at the end.
Yeah, I guess I was leaning more towards the negotiating aspect of changing people's minds on how to properly care for dogs.
Hmm.
So that's what I think of when I think of sales. Not like I'm selling real estate, but um, And I mean, and maybe I'm just saying this for dog trainers that are watching, that there is a certain level of negotiating that goes on when you're a dog trainer. And I think of negotiating, I think of selling. So
Can you explain that further, Jeff?
yeah, I mean, just any protocol that we implement, and we talk about owner compliance often, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a certain level of sales and negotiating that goes into getting people to change their behavior,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because we're always talking about dog behavior, and we often talk about owner compliance and human behavior. Well, sometimes we got to be really sales savvy, especially in negotiating and talking to different people of different backgrounds, of different learning styles,
Sure.
to sell an idea to them that
Mm-hmm.
may be foreign to them. Because like Joyce said, yeah, I mean, yeah, we may teach sit down, come and stay out of necessity or a byproduct of whatever behavior modification protocol we're implementing. um, that's one part of it, but the other part of it is it's almost like we're asking people to change the way they live with their dog.
Mm.
And I'm talking, for the dogs that we see and the problems that generally we see, shit needs to change.
Mm-hmm.
Or else, there's an old saying, from my early days of recovery, right? Before, when I first started getting sober back in the 90s, someone looked me dead in the face and said, Jeff, if nothing changes, nothing changes.
Mm-hmm.
So we're put in that position as professionals as well, not just from the mechanical skill of dog training and the knowledge base of psychology and science, but also as pitching people on how to live differently to improve and achieve the goals they want from their dogs.
It's teaching. It's I
Yeah.
think the word is, it's not selling it to them. It's teaching them. The reason that they're going to go for what you're trying to teach is because
It works.
it works. It makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah.
And when you talk to them about it, they're like, oh, you see that on their face all the time, right?
Yeah.
You say, like, oh.
Yeah,
It's
it
like,
just when you said sales, that's what popped into my head, and it took me
Mm-hmm.
down this whole train of thought. So I don't.
right.
We're technically not selling a product unless, I mean, if you go to my website, you could buy products, but I'm not selling them actively on during a dog training appointment.
Right. So if you sell a book, that's a sales, right? You're going to
Yeah.
get, right? You're selling an item,
Right.
you sell knowledge, it's teaching,
Hmm.
which
Yeah.
is a service,
Yeah.
right?
I call myself an educator. I mean, and yeah, I say dog trainer, and we talked about this, I think, some time ago about labels and certifications and
Yes.
the delineation between a trainer and a
Yeah.
behaviorist and all that stuff. And yeah, I guess I used to be more conscious about it, I guess is the best word, but whatever they call me, I've been called worse. So it's just,
There we go.
Yeah.
That's it. There it is.
And Jeff,
Totally.
what about that other part of it that Steve was talking about? I was curious whether when you quite often say you have two different hats, you have your trainer hat and your rescue hat on. Do you have to change how you talk to your clients depending upon which hat it is? Do you tend to?
I don't have to change
Mm-hmm.
my thought process, but I feel I have changed over the years.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times I'm looking at a situation more so from the point of how can we make sure we keep this dog in the home?
Okay.
If it's the right home, right?
Right.
Obviously,
Sure.
there's no safety issues, but
Yeah.
so I think sometimes that supersedes my approach as a dog trainer, because sit down, come stay, even behavior modification, there's other things, simple things that we can change in the dog's life that will make everybody's life better that
Right.
people just aren't doing, right? So I think sometimes I think I have changed in my initial approach of going into a situation that, if this is a good loving home, how do we make sure this dog stays here?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because sometimes, and as everyone can attest to, most of the time, not all the time, most of the time, clients are just overwhelmed and they need
Sure.
to see the way out. It's not that they're doing anything wrong or
Mm-hmm.
bad intentionally. They're just overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why it's important, like Joyce and Steve said, all the experiences that we've been through, and our studies and acumen over the years, like that, we may not be thinking of something, but I mean, I'm sure you can attest to, like, something, you'll be in the middle of something and something will pop up like that you haven't thought about in years. and it's appropriate for that situation. Like the shit just comes to you. Like
Mm.
we don't plan it, and it's just
Mm-hmm.
that's a byproduct of helping a lot of dogs over a long period of
Mm-hmm.
time. And I think that's the difference between dog trainers and behaviorists, in that most of the dog trainers I know, compared to the veterinary behaviorists that I know, the dog trainer is going to have that leash in their hand. And I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what level of education they have. And if you're a veterinary behaviorist watching this, if you didn't have a leash in your hand, what are you doing? What are you doing? I was watching a video. There was a guy specializing in aggression. It took him 3 months to handle the dog. And
Wow.
I'm thinking, and maybe it was, I don't know the totality of the
Yeah.
situation. I've never taken that long. I've gotten bitten,
Sure.
going too fast. That happens, but I can't imagine stringing someone along for 3 months and they never even handled the dog. Like, at some point, you gotta, the mechanical aspect of training certainly comes into play, especially when we get into, the hands-on approach to behavior modification, as opposed to pharmaceutical and theory on a piece of paper that people
Mm-hmm.
are sent home with. Because let's face it, that's what happens in vets' offices.
Mm-hmm.
They are sent home literally with a piece of paper.
Mm-hmm.
The assessments and evaluations that I'm aware of don't occur in the home.
Right.
And I guess maybe that's part of me. I believe a huge component to behavior is environment. So,
Mm-hmm.
but at the end, I guess I don't care what people call me anymore.
Right.
I'm like, yeah, I'll text, hey, it's Jeff, the dog trainer, confirming our appointment for tomorrow. I'm not gonna say, hey, it's Jeff, the dog trainer. I specialize in all breeds and all behaviors. I'm confirming our appointment for tomorrow.
That's a sales pitch right there. That's a sales pitch.
Yeah.
On my business card, I just have it bold letters. I work all breeds and all behaviors,
Mm-hmm.
and it's all inclusive. I don't discriminate against any breed or behavior. And I don't know. So, and then, from the rest of the terminology stuff, 15 years ago, I could that person, that Jeff from 2005, could probably talk circles around the Jeff of today,
Mm-hmm.
because I just don't use the words every day, and I don't care.
Right.
And I think we even talked about this back then. I would talk about, I would bring up, psychology and operative classical conditioning. And the only time you got a rise out of someone is if they took a couple of psych courses.
Right. Yeah, I remember you saying that. Yeah.
Other than that, people don't care. They just want to know, they want their dog to be better, and they want you to show them how. And
Right.
And it's funny because I had been thinking lately that our YouTube forums would be good for pet owners to listen to, watch, to learn what we think about working with dogs and working with them. And I think this particular forum really is meaningful in that way, because
Mm-hmm.
especially what Joyce was saying, what Steve was saying, particularly about looking into, when somebody goes to research. And Jeff said
When
it
somebody
too,
goes to
about
research
to
what, Bonnie?
research finding a dog trainer.
Okay.
Sorry. Um, that you need to connect with them, you need to do your research, you need to, this forum and the information that you all gave, then when they go to a franchise, it might flag their mind like, oh, wait a minute, this is too formulaic, or I don't want to send my dog to somebody, I want to work with somebody, I want to learn with them. And so that's what I have to add to this, is that what all of you said to me really is valuable information for pet owners.
So, Bonnie, do you care what your client calls it? Do you care that you call it mounting and Steve, or humping and Steve calls it mounting, as long as your client understands it?
I don't care what it is. I mean, honestly, for myself, sometimes I'm not that great at getting the exact term,
Mm-hmm.
or, scientific term, or explaining an exercise that I want to teach. But I know it, and I know what the right thing to do and what the effects are, but I might not be able to all the time explain it really clearly
Right.
so that they understand the concept, even though I know in my gut what it's supposed to do and know how to do it. So, you know, I think, you know, honesty from the trainer's perspective and,
And
you know,
clarity.
and right, if they don't understand it, then me figuring out how to clear that up, how to say it in a way, even if I have to, you know, between my next session, figure out, okay, I don't think they got that. Let me
Yeah.
figure out how to explain that better.
Yeah.
But wait a minute. What about, let's break it down and make it a little easier here. It's one thing if the client says to you when you show up, can you stop my dog from eating shit? That's different than the dog trainer coming in and saying, he eats shit? You know, it's like, you know, this corporophagy would be the term, right? But
Right, right.
you would like to use the term. So when they come to you and say, my dog's eating deer shit, it's like, we call that corporophagy in the dog training business.
Is that what you call it? Really?
Depends who
I
you
know
talk
what
to,
it's called, but I call it eating shit.
Me too,
We
Jeff.
all call it shit.
Oh, man. Oh, I don't know what I'm doing here. Listen, I guess if you're on a farm and you got boots on, you know, you could get away with that. But you know what? I live in a community, you know what I mean? And I mean, they say it too, you know, it's just like, I like to try to clean it
Profit.
up a little.
Is there a demographic level where we
Oh Lord, I'm losing control yet again. Uh,
I guess we could put a map to it, Jeff.
Jesus.
Whoa.
A map and a Sharpie, pal, you know what I mean? Don't know where we start drawing. Look at you.
Okay, I think that's a good place to
That's
end it.
dangerous.
Hey, wait, and one more thing. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, Lord.
All right, so I think what it comes down to is that it's easy to get caught up in the words. It's easy to get caught up in the names, but the bottom line is that as long as there's understanding, as long as there's an agreement as to what is being understood, it helps you guys as trainers and helps your clients. With that, I want to thank you all for being here. I'd like to thank everybody for watching. And we will not see you until after Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving, trainers, and happy Thanksgiving to those people watching. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel and like us on Facebook. And we'll see you next time. Thanks a lot, folks. Bye-bye.